This is in Baton Rouge. Hanny time. Hanny time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Sandegriff.
Pretty excited as we begin today's show. I just got a call. Turns out I am now the first alternate for the Pro Bowl. I mean, Tyler Huntley threw 2 more touchdown passes to me, so they took him first. But if he can't play for any reason, you know, and they're calling me next. It's the closest I've ever been to a Pro Bowl selection, really. So I'm pretty pumped up about that. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Hanny Time 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Sandegriff, Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp with you. We will have Mike Scarborough with us here in about 15 minutes. Figures to be a pretty quiet day on signing day tomorrow for LSU, but we'll get caught up with Mike on where LSU is, roster management, things like that. Dwayne Colucci at the bottom of the hour, recap the conference championship games, and a look ahead towards Super Bowl 57. But we begin today with LSU's 76-68 win over Tennessee last night in women's basketball. And we're leading with this because it was a very big game. It was also kind of a historical night in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center as they set an attendance record since the reconfiguration last night with over 15,000 fans in attendance last night, standing room only in some cases, and a line that went out to near Stadium Drive out by the Mike the Tiger habitat. LSU moves their record to 21-0, 9-0 in the conference, and that looming showdown with South Carolina. But first, let's bring in the voice of LSU women's basketball, Patrick Wright. Patrick, we just a few weeks ago when we did the Simone statue dedication, we talked about what a great crowd that was and a look back to some of those games when she was playing. Last night must have had a very similar feel for LSU's women's basketball team.
You know, I think it even went above some of the things that we've experienced in the past. Those were some good days, and we had some sellouts. But the rabidness of the fans last night, I knew it was going to be a good night, Charlie, when 2 things happened. The first thing happened was when Tennessee entered play. You know, when they came out for pregame warmups, the fans actually booed. You don't see that in women's basketball very often. So they booed Tennessee when they came out. I thought that was great. And then when the students launched a bunch of baby powder in the air about 5 minutes before tip-off, I knew it was going to be a good night in the Maravich Center because they were ready to go. And it's amazing to me how this team and the coach and the fans have all kind of bonded. You know, the players, they go interact with the students, and the fans love Coach Mulkey, and they identify with all the players. And there's not a detachment like you see sometimes with teams and players. It's a all for one for all mentality in that building. Everybody was there to help last night, and the team needed it on a couple of occasions when Tennessee made some runs. Tennessee's got 2 kids who were going to go in the first round of the WNBA draft, and LSU pretty well held both of them in check last night. But they were good. They made their runs, and that electric is the word I keep using. It was just so loud and so enthusiastic, and it's just wonderful to see the support that this community has given the coach and these kids.
The decision had to be made at some point yesterday afternoon. This is a hard sellout. And LSU doesn't see very many hard sellouts in basketball, men's or women's, okay? So they had to make a decision what they were going to do for standing room tickets, and they did that. Kind of walk me through that, because what it sounds like, we were doing a show last night. We were watching on TV, but I didn't see crowd shots too much. There was, on the concourse, there were standing room tickets that were sold?
Yeah, and I think because basically not every seat in the building is reserved. A lot of the upper levels are general admission. So you might have had a few, a seat or 2 that were empty. All the tickets were sold. And what I was told was that later on, when that people who came, they may have oversold a little bit. I don't know if that's exactly the right word, but yes, there were people who were standing. The security people said you can stand here, but you have to have your back up against kind of that wall so people can still walk. I think that was to appease the fire marshal as much as anything and to keep a safe walkway. So I think, yes, they sold a few extra seats. Hey, if you can go find a seat, great. But if you can stand, that'd be okay too.
I found myself, before we talk about the actual game, thinking back to Mulkey's opening, her introductory press conference where she said, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of, come out now, we need you, don't wait until we're really good. A season and a half, maybe a little over a season and a half in, and you're among the most elite in the country. We knew she was going to win. That was never a question. Are even you surprised at how good they are at this point in her tenure?
Well, yes, but the more I've spent time around her and her staff, it surprises me less because they're just so amazing at what they do. Um, she's her record right now is 47-6. That's 88%, and she is 23-2 in SEC play. Nobody could have predicted that, a year and a half ago. But to bring in the large group of players, I mean, this is an entirely basically new squad except for Alexis Morris, and as great a talent as they all are, it was going to take time for them to come together. And I think that they have. It happened so quickly. People, who like to complain about stuff on Twitter have been jumping all over, her for her schedule in the non-conference. It helped them build cohesiveness. It helped them see what looks right, what fits right. It helped bring them together. And now they're playing as well as anybody. So,
can you give me an example of some of the things you're talking about being around their staffs? I ask this because you've been there forever. You were there when Sue Gunner was the coach. She's in the Hall of Fame. You were there when Van Chancellor was the coach. He's in the Hall of Fame. You were there for the Final Four in a row. Simone Augustus is going to the Hall of Fame. Sylvia Fowles is going to the Hall of Fame. You've seen some stuff, Patrick. You've seen elite players and coaches. Give me an example of what you say when you say, look, when I'm around this staff, I know.
Well, I'll give you a good example. We had Bob Starkey on Coach's radio show last Tuesday night, and he's seen a lot of what I've seen, from the women's basketball side. We were talking about practice, how practice run, not the Allen Iverson kind of practice.
Yeah.
This is like good practice. She runs the best, most efficient practices I've ever seen, and I asked Bob the same question. He said, it's the most amazing thing he's seen also. That if you go watch one of their practices, they get more done in an hour than you. Everything is so efficient. They go from place to place. Everybody knows what to do. They run. It is. I think Army generals would be proud of how organized and efficient their practices are. And that's what Bob said. He said, look, I wish I could have been around her at an earlier stage of my career and learned some of this stuff, because it's, as all the amazing coaches he's been around, he said it's the best hands down that he's ever seen. And he's gone and observed a lot of men's coaches, like Bobby Knight and coaches like that. So that's the most efficient thing I can come up with, is that just the practices are, that's their mindset. They practice that way and they play the way they practice.
So let's turn our attention to the game itself. Tennessee was undefeated in conference play. They played everybody but the Brooklyn Nets in non-conference. So their overall record is a little bit less, but they were undefeated in conference play. LSU did not shoot the ball particularly well last night. They were 40% from the floor. They were 30% from three. And they got out-rebounded in the first half, and they got hit pretty good on the offensive glass. You do all of those things, and Angel Reese, we'll talk about her in a second, but they had some plans for her to kind of take her out of the game in the first half. You do all those things, and you still withstand every Tennessee run, Patrick. It's not like they played perfect basketball last night, and they still won the game.
No, and I think the key to the turnaround was the rebounding. Tennessee, some teams are just known for certain things. Tennessee has always been a team that was going to rebound. That was Pat Summitt started it, and it continues, even though she's no longer with us. And Kim had to call a timeout early in the second quarter because the team just wasn't rebounding. And even at halftime, we went into halftime -7 in the rebounds. We finished, I think, +8 for the game. So they turned the rebounds around in the second half. And it's not even necessarily the ones you get, but you got to keep Tennessee off the second chance points. They average about 20 a game. I think we held them to 13 last night. And they went a long stretch without any. That's how they beat you. So that's how you've got to slow them down, is to keep them from just dominating the putbacks. And that's what LSU was able to do, because that's really how they're most effective.
All right, Angel Reese is now 21 consecutive double-doubles. She was 18 and 17 last night, but it wasn't it was a rough start for her, Patrick. They had her on Rakia Jackson, whose averages right at 18 points a game for Tennessee. And clearly they had some plans for her offensively. They were to keep the ball out of her hands. Talk about what Tennessee did and what LSU did to get Reese more involved in the second half, because obviously she finished up with another strong game.
Well, and LSU started the game, their first two possessions, lob pass to Reese, she laid it in, and then possession later, lob pass down low to LaDasia Williams, she laid it in. But then Tennessee got tight, and they tightened their defense up around the bucket, and for a while LSU had a little trouble. The offense got a little bit stagnant until they started getting out on the break and running things. But so Reese had 4 points and 4 rebounds at halftime, but she came out in the second half, I think, that just with a little motivation at halftime from the coach, perhaps, and she just played. She got that look in her eye and just played possessed. I'm not sure it was anything that Tennessee really did to try to take her away necessarily, but every time she would get the ball down low, she'd have a couple of people around her. But she's a good enough passer where she can kick it out, and somebody makes enough shots to kind of keep the offense rolling a little bit. But that's why Alexis Morris was actually the one who carried LSU most of the game, scoring 31 points. When that offense was stagnant, she was hitting shots, and that kind of opened it up a little bit.
She is now fifth in the nation in scoring and second in the nation in rebounding, which is Sylvia Fowles' territory, if not maybe a little bit ahead of what Sylvia was doing early in her career as far as points go. I can't imagine at this point. I'm no expert. That's why I got you on here. I can't imagine she's not the National Player of the Year at this point. But maybe you can,
Well,
I know Caitlin Clark from Iowa has put up historical stats, but I can't imagine anybody's having a better year than Angel Reese right now.
Well, and a lot of times these awards are on familiarity. Aaliyah Boston at South Carolina is has always been the front runner. She's not putting up monster numbers this year. She's putting up good numbers, but she's only playing about 22, 23 minutes a game because they've been blowing people out. Caitlin Clark is always going to be mentioned as well. I think last night was a good start. It was a national TV game. I'm sure a lot of eyes were on her, and good and well that a week from Sunday, on Super Bowl Sunday, before the folks watch the Super Bowl, all eyes are going to be on that game. If she can have a solid game, I don't think she has to go for 23 and 15 or whatever. But if she can put up a game like she put up last night against South Carolina, then I think she has got to be the front runner. But how media votes and voters, they have their biases. But I think that game's going to go a long way to helping, because the narrative that is out there right now is that she's compiled a lot of her numbers against weaker opponents in the non-conference. You can buy that if you want, but if you can do it against South Carolina, I think it'll validate all of that.
18 and 17 against Tennessee is nothing to sneeze at. Patrick, they've got games against Georgia and at Texas A&M before that clash with South Carolina. The Gamecocks have Kentucky, but the one everybody's looking at, of course, is this Sunday against UConn. I can't ask Jimmy because he doesn't do point spreads for women's basketball, but they got to go to Stores. Give me kind of a thumbnail on how big of a favorite they are. Are they an underdog on the road there? I mean, what do you think happens? Give me a kind of a matchup, South Carolina and UConn, because for the only time this year, I will be rooting for UConn just because I want to see the undefeated matchup on Super Bowl Sunday. It's going to be a big game regardless, even if they lose to UConn. But what do you think about that game?
I think South Carolina's got to be favored by a little bit just because of their depth. UConn's been running basically 6 players, with a couple of spare parts on the bench because of injuries. South Carolina goes 12 deep with McDonald's All-American. So if I got to favor one team, I think South Carolina's depth. But UConn has been winning, playing these kids 40 minutes a game, and they beat Tennessee by 17 in Knoxville a week ago, basically playing 7 kids. So, but South Carolina is just so good off the bench, and that's what gives them the big edge over just about anybody. So I'm gonna favor them a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if UConn pulls off the win, especially at home, because the little group they do have that's playing is really, really good.
Patrick, we appreciate your time as always. Got a feeling we'll be talking with you again. This is going to be a fun ride down the stretch for the LSU ladies. This is going to be a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah,
so,
will do. Appreciate it, Charlie. Talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. Patrick Wright, the voice of LSU women's basketball since before Naismith, I believe. We'll take a break. When we come back, Mike Scarborough. Tomorrow is National Signing Day. It figures to be a pretty quiet one for the LSU Tigers, but we'll get caught up with Mike when we return. Dwayne Colucci at the bottom of the hour. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
You ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet.
Jimmy Otta and Mike Delicano for the Tuesday evening edition of Game Time, presented by Bet Rivers. We're at Mike Anderson's on Lee, just off of Nicholson. That's Game Time, presented by Bet Rivers, 6 to 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 1045ESPN.com. Get Apple, get it Spotify. You can get the podcast. Podcast will probably drop a little bit later today. Had to spend a little portion of the morning taking care of a sick but well recovering young pup at my house. So he's back up to speed, so we're in good shape there. But so we'll drop the podcast a little bit later this afternoon. Tomorrow is National Signing Day, I guess. It's so much different than what it used to be. We bring in Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com. Mike, does any part of you miss the old signing days where, you had the bash, you had everybody, on pins and needles with a few of those commitments that were coming down late? Any nostalgia going on there for you at all?
Not really. I kind of like the December period, but I will say I was asked that question Monday on another show, and I did like some of the early bashes, and I particularly liked the original, the first one that was at the field house under DiNardo.
Yeah, I remember that one. The whole the Travis Minor phone call, or the non-Travis Minor phone call.
Yeah, the Thomas Pittman bag of money cartoon on the overhead projector.
I do remember that too. And you know what else I remember about that, Mike, was they showed the highlight video of the class, and they showed probably 5 or 6 plays from every player, and the video ran for 15 minutes or so. But for most people, this is pre-internet, and this was the first time any people had seen these names that you talked about for months and months and months. And there was a lot of, oh wow, that guy looks like that, oh wow, this guy's doing this. That's what I remember, because back then you couldn't just pull up YouTube and catch, Oh
yeah, that's true. We would spend most of our off season. We would start in December begging high school coaches to send us DVDs. Well, even if you got DVDs at the time, YouTube didn't exist. That's how Mark Cuban made his money. I forget the name of the platform that he sold, but that thing was ridiculously expensive, and the quality was awful. So you wouldn't upload any of the DVDs and highlight videos that you got from coaches on particular players. So that was a part of it that made it a draw. And then certainly, I guess a decade and a half later, Facebook and Twitter arrived, and it really, and then also too, the LSU official website originally was handled by a third party. And then that became totally in-house, and they got their act together, and it is what it is today. So everything changed, all that, but I kind of still think that maybe there's room for some sort of celebration to be had somewhere. But I know it was an expensive undertaking as well.
All right, what are you expecting tomorrow?
It doesn't look like much of anything. We've been reaching out. Is there anything could happen? Anything that we're not seeing? I mean, we're all looking at the defensive tackle from Chicago, but I don't think that's LSU, Wisconsin, or Michigan. So I think probably you're taking it to the house, and I like the fact that they're going to have these whatever numbers are going to be, and then don't forget you can still have some of the current roster hit the portal in May. So whatever number you think they have to give to get to 85 by August, that number can increase depending on what current LSU players get into the portal after they see what their lot is after spring.
So if you're looking at the LSU roster right now and you're thinking about potential ads down the road and potential defections, if there are guys on this team that will transfer out after the spring semester, what are your biggest areas of concern?
Well, I mean, look, at this point, without knowing what any injuries would be in spring, I mean, if there's a great center that ends up getting in the portal or a great linebacker, you tend to like the numbers at corner, but do you go through spring and feel like, maybe you don't have what you have as far as too deep? And is there maybe a really big-time marquee defensive tackle that you can get late? Maybe a stellar tackle. I mean, to me, it's just if there's somebody there that you think is better than what you got and you got the numbers to give, well, you go for it.
What in the conference should we be looking at tomorrow? What, even if LSU's not involved with it, what top players are going to make an announcement tomorrow that there's some legitimate suspense to it, if any?
Yeah, I haven't really studied what Alabama and Georgia and those guys got going. I tend to think most of them are kind of like LSU, where they pretty much filled up, but there's some stragglers out there. But I think it is what it is for LSU right now, though.
Yeah, they've filled it, pretty well. When you sign 25, high school kids and you got 11 more out of the transfer portal, most of the hay is in the barn. And there may be some tweaks to this roster, but I don't know if there's a whole lot more coming. One more thing, Mike. I did see where they were looking for tryouts on the campus, which is not unusual. They've done that before. What I did notice was that to go and try out, you have to have your morning schedule cleared. You're going to practice in spring in the morning. That's a little bit different.
Yeah, I noticed that. You had to have all your be cleared out by 10:30.
Yeah. You had to be able to practice in the morning. So I took that. Maybe I'm wrong. I took that to mean that they're going to do some of their spring workouts, or maybe even most of them, in the morning. So that'll be a little bit different.
Well, I'll enjoy that. We won't be fighting 5 o'clock traffic to get out there, and I'm assuming we're going to have the same access we had last spring, which was the best we've ever had. And of course, we start getting rounds of position coaches and coordinators for interviews like we got as well. So that's every spring we go into it saying it's going to be an interesting spring, or I can't wait to see this position. I mean, there's a whole lot that's going to be very interesting to cover, and I can't wait to get out there. I'm assuming the schedule is going to be similar to last year. I bet the date's probably going to be pretty darn close, starting at the end of March and a spring game last weekend or so of April. And but man, there's a whole lot to see, and new numbers and new faces and all the midterm enrollees. There's going to be a lot of position battles and things to see.
Somebody's got to go out there and count quarterback reps. I mean,
you're not really counting them now, are you?
I don't know. I don't think they ever.
It's a lot easier to count.
I don't think the fans ever stop counting quarterback reps.
Well, Ricky Collins is going to get a lot better reps than what Walker got last year, because there was 4 and now there's 3.
Right. So, well, he'll be able to take advantage of that. Mike, appreciate it. We'll catch up with you when spring gets going.
All right, Charlie. Talk soon.
Thanks a lot, Mike Scarborough, TigerBait.com. We'll take a break. Dwayne Colucci going out to the desert when we return. It's Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Big Mike's in Denham Springs with live ball crawfish every day. Starting at 11 o'clock, head on over to Big Mike's for crawfish. Big Mike cooking them himself most of the time, so you can get out there and see him live. Music coming up on Thursday. It is Swamp Pop, plus they got the Jitterbug dance lessons going on this Thursday, and DJ K-Jack will be there as well. On Saturday, it is High Water at 8 and Petty Betty at 11 o'clock. Your live music at Big Mike's. Don't forget happy hour drink specials from 3 until 7 weekdays and all day on Sunday. And you'll be able to watch the Super Bowl in a week with those drink specials going on at Big Mike's. Daily lunch specials as well. Part of the fabric in Denham Springs. And Big Mike himself will be the Grand Marshal of the Mardi Gras Parade in Denham on February the 11th. On Aspen Boulevard, Big Mike's, we're kind of a big deal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal.
It's Hunt. Join me on Tuesday for the Hunt Palmer Show, 1 to 3 of Glenn West. Probably talking a little more baseball than basketball, and Sharif Ishak on the slumping Pels. Hunt Palmer Show, 1 to 3 weekdays, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Championship weekend behind us. Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Some disappointed people, some disappointed Joe Burrow fans, I guess, here in Baton Rouge. Dwayne Colucci from the Ram Point and the South Point joins us right now. Colucci, how you doing, man?
Same old, Charlie. You know, now it gets to be where I could pay back Jimmy Ott a little because he was just off the hook on Twitter, if you with the Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. So definitely going to rub it in on Jimmy a little, and definitely not you because you give me all the support possible.
Let me tell you something. He was not a happy person. I mean, I was unhappy, but he was particularly unhappy on Sunday. Look, I'll ask one question. I don't like to spend a bunch of time just beating up referees. I don't think it's time well spent. How it affects the game, yeah, but I don't want to sit here and go, oh, the refs missed that. The refs missed that. Oh, look, it's just tired to me. But it wasn't a great day for the officials on Sunday from a couple of different angles. So you tell me how you saw it.
There were a lot of questionable calls. The call towards the end of the game was probably the only correct call that they basically got. I mean, I've seen so many different plays and replays. When Cincinnati was close to the goal line, they crushed, I think it was Mixon or Perrine out of bounds. He was 3 yards out of bounds. Then you had the grounding call against Burrow there. There were definitely some questionable calls, and it tarnishes the game a little. You definitely could tell that when the referees are in that flow, they're taking control of the game. And if you're a Cincinnati fan, you're definitely going to have a foul taste in your mouth. But, it shouldn't come down to that. Yet you were definitely outplaying the team in the second half. So to put the pedal to the metal isn't out of the question. Credit to Mahomes. You know when you have a high ankle sprain injury, Charlie, that the first half he looked great. Then you go into the locker room. You got to sit there. Everything tightens up. The drugs, whatever that you took, starts to wear off for the pain. And you're definitely going to be moving around a little more gingerly. And Cincinnati took that in the second half. And I was so surprised they were only down by a minuscule amount in the first half because I thought the Chiefs really took it to them. Definitely a bad taste in all the Cincinnati fans' mouths because of the referees. But it was a decent played game. It's going to be tarnished by the ref calls without a doubt. Cincinnati fans are going off the hook. You've seen, just like you said, Joe Burrow fans in your neck of the woods. They're definitely not pleased. The reaction then after the game by a teammate to just bash a guy was just terrible, in my opinion. I didn't think that there's any room for that in the game. But, as far as the rigged accusations and fixed and all this, let me tell you, and another goof on my team, Charlie, I just seen a tweet. If everything's fixed, Dallas is always the number one draw and the number one team. How come we're never in the championship or a Super Bowl?
That's a reasonable question. That's a reasonable question.
If games are getting fixed that people are perceiving, which I don't believe that. Naturally, I'm a gambling advocate. I'm a bookmaker. It's just it puts a damper on everybody's outlook. But we have a great Super Bowl looking forward. Mahomes against Hurts. Philadelphia just destroyed San Francisco. That was the whole key that Dallas couldn't accomplish. You put Purdy on his back or you get him a little rattled or injured, and where is this team going to go? As great as their running attack is, it couldn't muster anything against that Philadelphia monster defense. Credit to McCaffrey, though. He hung in there, took a couple of snaps, his quarterback. Credit to Purdy. He had to come back out there. But Eagles definitely came to play.
Jerry Jones, if he wants to take a good look at this, will look at Philadelphia and say, why is Philadelphia as good as they are? Well, their personnel people, led by Howie Roseman, have put together a fabulous roster. The Jalen Hurts pick was not popular when they made it, but they've hit the jackpot there. They made moves for people like Hassan Reddick in the offseason that paid off, 10 times what they could have expected for it. It was a bold move to make a move for A.J. Brown and to pay him what they wanted to pay him. Tennessee, who's a pretty good organization, didn't want to do that. Philadelphia did. That paid off, handsomely for them. Jerry Jones has never turned over that kind of personnel-making decision to anybody but himself or his son. Look at what your division rival is doing. This is one Super Bowl that they have won in the last 5 years and another one potentially coming a Sunday from now. So, hey, look in the mirror, Jerry. You're the personnel guy, right?
Yeah, definitely, Charlie. And that's always the scrutiny. We haven't had anybody else making the decision since Jimmy Johnson, and we see how great of a coach he was. Probably one of the best he'll go down ever, winning at the college level as well as multiple titles in the pro level. So, Jones has to look in the mirror. Plus, our roster was built a little better than this, you have to say, looking 2-3 years out. And like you said, the acquisition, the drafting of Hurts, the acquisition of Brown, just the performance by Sanders and all those guys really propelling them. They got Sue in the offseason, which was another huge maneuver. So, I just think that Philadelphia really has a great organization. They're a proud organization, and they look to win. And not only that, they look to rub it in your face when they can beat you, Charlie. So, we have to take these things definitely into consideration when handicapping this game and putting up a line. Naturally, we opened the Chiefs at -1, and you saw the initial reaction, to 2.5, all the way to 2.5 Eagles, but now leveling out at 1.5 at the Rampart and South Point. I took a massive bet on Chiefs money line over at my shop yesterday morning. So there's going to be great two-way action on this game. But getting back to that comparison, yes, the Eagles have, leaps and bounds have left over the Cowboys, and the Giants are right on their tail. A few acquisitions here and there. Thibodeau was a massive selection. Daniel Jones is starting to pan out. As long as Saquon's healthy, they're definitely a threat. So you get a couple of acquisitions. Now, they made a mistake with the Detroit wide receiver that they picked up. But if they get a wide receiver, there's definitely more competition in this division. So Dallas, yeah, definitely. They didn't get the job done. Could have beat San Francisco. I still swear it. They just gave the game away. And you see how San Francisco was when facing a real team. That definite weakness of schedule, the worst schedule, they played the weakest schedule, I should say, in the NFL this year, helped Brock Purdy and them put together that win streak, but it all came crumbling down.
Dwayne, when I look at this game, I can think of a lot of reasons why I would doubt the Chiefs, okay? They played some close games against some lesser competition down the stretch. They played 2 close games with the Broncos. They played a way too close game with the Texans. They lost a close game to the Bengals on the road. That's understandable. And then they caught a couple of breaks against Jacksonville. A drop pass by Christian Kirk, a fumble inside the 5-yard line. Maybe it was caused, maybe it was not. And then you had a few breaks go your way this way. Philadelphia, when Jalen Hurts has played, has run over the league like an 18-wheel truck. I mean, I know they caught the break with Purdy being out last week. I get that. But the week before that, they destroyed the Giants. They've destroyed pretty much everybody they played when Hurts has played. They lost to the Saints with Gardner Minshew. They lost to the Cowboys with Gardner Minshew. But when Hurts has played, they got one loss since Labor Day. I mean, to me, they're an easy favorite here. Mahomes may make his magic. The guy's fabulous. But to me, Philadelphia is far the superior team here.
Well, definitely that remains to be seen, Charlie. I mean, they're playing great and definitely a credit to Hurts, but Hurts only had 121 yards. He didn't look like he was some master out there on the field last week. He definitely had to make some split-second decisions. Brown was somewhat neutralized. It was just that when you're facing a team that could only run the ball basically for a whole half, maybe 3 quarters, it becomes one-dimensional. You flood the box, and you're playing ball control. Now, I selected the Eagles by 20 or more in that game. I thought the matchup definitely favored them, and Hurts was at about, in my opinion, 75%. But like you said, they've only lost the games, against Dallas and against your boys, the Saints, when Minshew was out there. And Hurts has been just such a viable option. Now, granted, they had a tough game against Indianapolis. Let's remember that game. That was only a 17-16 victory. Then you follow that up. They only beat the Packers by 7. So there were some tough games in there. They lost to the Redskins. They got dominated, the Washington Commanders. They got slipped there. They lost to them. And definitely, I wouldn't say they're that much better than the Chiefs just because Mahomes has been here 5 times, Charlie. He knows the routine. He knows the surroundings, whereas Hurts and this younger team could get a little rattled because it's first time that they've been around this scenario. A.J. Brown, the key asset, he's never been in a Super Bowl. So, this is definitely a new atmosphere for the Philadelphia Eagles, but they definitely should overcome. I agree with you, Charlie. Right now, they are playing a way better brand of football than the Chiefs. The last great Chiefs game was a blowout against the Raiders, who definitely were going in the wrong direction. So credit, though, to Kansas City. Let's remember, Mahomes was banged up this week, and they still got by the hottest team in the NFL. I believe Cincinnati was playing a little better than the Eagles down the stretch. So you overcome that with that big injury, and they definitely have to get some of these wideouts healthy, Charlie. That's going to be important to help Mahomes. But, yeah, the Eagles, that's why we made it a 1-point favorite. A lot of shops around town had the Chiefs 2.5, which was somewhat perplexing. And my dad, an old school guy, said, jump all over that. The Eagles should be about 2.5 or 3 in this game. So he agrees with you. I kind of thought Pick'em might have been the right number, but, this is going to be a fabulous game. And we've been getting a lot of Eagle money at the plus. And now they are the favorite.
The Eagles look like the better team to me, but I'll say this. You got Andy Reid on the other sideline, and you got a first-time Super Bowl coach on the Eagles sideline, and you've got Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes, at whatever level he is capable of, always seems to make a play. Now, he's human, but when he is at his best, he is the best player in the National Football League. When he's 100% healthy, in my opinion, he's the best player in the National Football League. So even at a little bit less than 100%, you got to take in the Mahomes factor. So I get it. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, fun game to handicap. Next week we're going to talk about a lot of the props because that is how much of that time is. How much of that is taking up your time, the props, as you lead up to the Super Bowl?
Oh, geez, it's very time consuming. It's important to be so competitive with all the other corporations out there now, Charlie, and Chris and the boys do a fabulous job. We all have a little input and put it together. We've already put out a couple of pages. We're trying to jump the gun, get everything we can out there. Naturally, the base ones are easy, the coin toss, will there be a safety, etc. But when you start looking at handicapping, player to score the first touchdown, what we could put up as an over-under on passing yards for guys Hurts and Mahomes, as well as rushing yards for the other players. We will, when it's all said and done, have about 18 or 19 pages, Charlie.
Wow.
So this is massively time-consuming. This is our time of the year. The handle is just going to be so exceptional with these two teams. Everybody felt that, the Eagles were the best team in the NFC and were rolling along. Yeah, you had the three-prong attack in the AFC, but you knew Mahomes had the class and Burrow. You knew that was going to be a fabulous matchup, and it's just going to be off the hook to handle, but very time-consuming because we put together, 19 pages. Like I said, we do some cross-sport wagers where we put over-unders against, NBA players, hockey players, etc., that are playing on that weekend. So we put those up a little later. But I would say when all is said and done, by about Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll have everything up for, next week for the 18, 19 pages.
I got this picture in my head of you in front of a YouTube video of whoever's singing the national anthem with a stopwatch, just so you can get the over-under on how long it takes to sing the Star-Spangled Banner. All right, Kaluch, we got a light card in the NHL tonight, just 3 games on the schedule tonight, but any one of them you like? You had a good week last week.
Yeah, we were 3-0, finally, Charlie. I love to give your listeners out some big winners. This is definitely an adverse card tonight. I mean, you have two terrible teams, the Blue Jackets, as well as Montreal, that are on this docket. But I definitely can see the Kings playing well tonight. But Carolina, they beat Boston. So, I'm gonna definitely. I'm looking at the Montreal game because I think they could win at home against Ottawa, who has not much of a better record. Montreal, though, is 0-5-1 wearing the retro jerseys, and they are going to be wearing those tonight. So, that's a factor. But I would take Montreal at the plus. The Kings as well at the big plus. Carolina may be a little flat coming off that huge victory. They destroyed the Bruins, which was somewhat shocking. Bruins now on somewhat of a losing streak, coming back down to earth. And Carolina is the team that could definitely push them to the brink. We've spoken about this time and time again. The only problem with the Hurricanes right now, they did lose Max Pacioretty. He came back and was scoring in bunches, but he only played a couple of games and then right back on the injured list. So unfortunate right now for Carolina to lose him, but you look at their winning streak, the last 5 games, they've beaten Boston, San Jose, Dallas, the Islanders, and Minnesota. The Kings come in somewhat of a hungry and good road team. They are 14th in the league in goals scored, so definitely they like to put together a nice offensive punch. They have won 3 of their last 4, beating Chicago on the road, beating Philadelphia, beating Florida, lost to Tampa Bay. This is the last game of the road trip. I'm looking to avoid that complacency. So let's take the Kings with a big plus and Montreal at a big plus, but very light tonight, just because it's the last night before the All-Star break, Charlie. You've got to handicap and pick some.
Got it. All right, Kaluch, enjoy the rest of the week. We'll talk to you next week. We'll get a big dose of Super Bowl 57. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Thank you, Charlie. You're the best. I love it.
Thanks, man. Dwayne Kalucha at the South Point and the Rampart. We'll take a break, come back, wrap things up. Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Here is we wrap up the month of January. We tell you how we're setting Setting the table here at Acura and Infiniti of Baton Rouge. 3.9% APR available right now. 60 months on pretty much every model on the lot right now. $1,000 in loyalty cash back on the MDX and the TLX. 24,000-mile complimentary scheduled maintenance on all of your 2023 models. Listen, the last several times that we've gone to buy a vehicle, we're going to Acura and Infiniti of Baton Rouge. They're going to make you feel comfortable. There is a transparency to their pricing. And when you really feel comfortable about the vehicle, whether it's a new vehicle or a certified pre-owned vehicle that has been through that, a really rigorous inspection to get back up to code, you're dealing with the highest quality product on the market. I felt comfortable from start to finish, and the vehicles that I've bought have just had a wonderful experience with them. So do what I did and in our family at Acura and Infiniti of Baton Rouge.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I've got that blue sky, I've got that sunshine.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR. We'll get you an update on the Senior Bowl and can the Pelicans finally end this losing streak. We'll preview it all on Tuesday's AFR. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Pels in action tonight. It's a late start, 9 o'clock in Denver. Man, it's 8 in a row now for New Orleans that they have lost. They haven't won since the 13th of January against the Pistons. They don't have Zion back yet, but they have gotten Brandon Ingram back, and then they go catch Denver tonight. We said if they didn't beat Washington on Saturday, that there was a good chance they were going to drop another 3. And when Valanciunas went out 7 minutes into that game, Safford took over inside and had a monster game. They lose that one, which was a little bit surprising. I thought they'd play with a little bit more urgency there. So now it's reached 8 in a row, and you go face a Denver team on the road. Now, during the losing streak, the closest game was against Denver. It was a 1-point game. Pels played with a lot of heart, a lot of fire, and came up just short because, well, Joker's really good. Now you catch a Denver team that's coming back off of back-to-back road losses. Tough game against Milwaukee, tough game against Philadelphia. They lose both of those games. They still got the best record in the Western Conference. You got to go back and catch them coming off of that. There's a reason the Pels are a touchdown underdog tonight, so we'll see. Mario, you don't look overly confident over there, man. You stressing?
Yeah, it's not looking good. Jamal Murray questionable for the Nuggets, so maybe that'll help the Pels, but just need a better effort all around. Hopefully Brandon Ingram gets some of the rust out.
They could use a W.
Yeah.
No kidding, huh? Thanks, Captain Obvious. Thanks to everybody for participating. Hunt Palmer is up next. For Taylor and Mario, I'm Charles Hager saying thank you and good afternoon. This has been Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.